Let's be honest. Most older adults would rather stay in their own homes surrounded by familiar things than move into a place where dinner is served at 4:07 in the afternoon. You know, you've entered a different phase of life when supper starts before Wheel of Fortune. Welcome to the Daily Creak. I'm Jay. Wisdom with a side of ibuprofen. Today we're talking about housing, caregiving, and the dream shared by nearly every senior in America, which is staying independent as long as possible. Now, there's nothing wrong with senior communities or assisted living. Many of those places are wonderful. But if you ask most retirees what they truly want, the answer is pretty simple. I just want to stay in my own home, my own chair, my own coffee mug, my own thermostat set to a comfortable temperature. And honestly, that desire makes perfect sense. Home is familiarity, it's comfort, it's memories, it's knowing exactly where the light switches are when you wake up at 2:30 in the morning to go to the bathroom for the third time. But as millions of Americans are discovering, growing older brings some realities that nobody really prepares you for. And if you're approaching retirement, take note of these. And one of the biggest ones is staying independent takes planning. Now, you might hear the phrase aging in place quite a bit these days. That simply means remaining in your own home as you grow older instead of moving into assisted living or some kind of care facility. And for many of us seniors, that's absolutely the goal. But here's the thing. Houses that work perfectly at age 40 sometimes become obstacle courses at 75. At 40, stairs are exercise. At 75, stairs become a daily negotiation with gravity. You suddenly start looking at your own house differently. Carrying a laundry basket downstairs starts feeling like an Olympic event sponsored by arthritis medication. Even little things become harder over time. Reaching high shelves, getting up from low couches and chairs, well, that's a tough one for me. Stepping over the dog or the cat when they're intentionally trying to trip you. Opening jars apparently sealed by NASA engineers. That's why more seniors are making small home modifications before the problems happen. They're doing things like installing grab bars in bathrooms, walk-in showers, better lighting, handrails, non-slip flooring, wider doorways, and getting rid of clutter. And let me tell you something. There comes a point in life where owning fewer things starts sounding less depressing and more intelligent. You spend the first half of life collecting stuff, and the second half wondering who's eventually going to haul it all away. The truth is, planning ahead really matters, because it's far easier to make changes while you're healthy than after a fall or some kind of medical emergency forces decisions at the drop of a hat. Nobody likes thinking about those things. But ignoring reality does not make reality disappear. It's always going to be there. That's true for health. That's true for finances. It's definitely true for staircases. Now let's talk about something nobody enjoys. The cost of care. And unfortunately, it's expensive. It's very expensive. Assisted living, memory care, home health aides, skilled nursing facilities. Some monthly care bills now look like luxury beachfront mortgage payments. Many families are completely unprepared for these expenses. Not because they're irresponsible, but mostly because nobody warned them how expensive growing old could actually be. When people are younger, retirement planning usually focuses on travel, savings, maybe golf, whether or not you're any good at it, doesn't matter. Maybe finally buying an RV. Very few people sit around saying, you know what sounds fun? Researching long-term care insurance. That doesn't sound like any fun at all, does it? But the reality is, these conversations matter, especially because many seniors eventually need at least some help, some little bit of help, at least. And these things are available in your community. Maybe it's transportation, maybe meal preparation, maybe medication reminders, maybe help after surgery or some illness. And the earlier families discuss finances and future plans, the less panic there's going to be later. I know these conversations can be really uncomfortable. Nobody wants to sit at the kitchen table discussing mobility problems while you're eating meatloaf or pot roast or anything for that matter. But avoiding the topic creates even bigger stress later on. And sometimes adult children avoid the conversation because they don't want to upset their parents. Meanwhile, the parents avoid the conversation because they don't want to burden the kids. So everybody stays silent while quietly worrying in completely different rooms. Communication really matters at this point. Even imperfect conversations are better than no conversations. And then there are the caregivers. Millions of Americans are now caring? They're not caging anybody. They're caring for aging parents or spouses. And many of them are doing it while they're working full-time jobs, raising their own kids, paying bills, managing households, surviving almost entirely on caffeine and determination. Caregiving is one of the hardest jobs in the world, emotionally, physically, and financially. And most caregivers receive very little recognition for it. A lot of caregiving happens quietly. It's the daughter driving her father to appointments every week. The husband helping his wife remember medications. The son mowing his mother's lawn after work because her knees can't handle it anymore. It's exhausting. And many caregivers feel guilty all the time. Guilty if they're tired. Guilty if they get frustrated. Guilty if they take a break. Guilty because somehow they think they should be able to do everything perfectly. Well, you just can't do everything perfectly. But nobody can worry about that weight forever without support. Caregivers need help too. They need rest, encouragement, resources, people checking on them for a change. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones barely holding it together while making sure everybody else is okay. I know people like that. I'm not one of them. I'd be freaking out, man. And if you're a caregiver listening right now, what you're doing really matters, even on the days when it feels invisible. So what actually helps seniors stay independent longer? Honestly, it's often the most simple things. Regular exercise, good lighting, transportation plans, medication organization, fall prevention, social connection, and routine. Little things add up because one fall, one hospitalization, one extended illness, that can all completely change somebody's independence overnight, in a heartbeat. And while we're talking about independence, let's discuss something people don't take seriously enough. Loneliness. Isolation is dangerous, seriously dangerous. Human beings need connection, even introverts, even stubborn retirees, even grumpy old men who sit on the porch saying, "I don't need nobody." Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Everybody needs somebody eventually. People need conversations, friendships, family contact, purpose. And one of the hardest parts of aging is that social circles naturally shrink over time. People move. Friends pass away. Your mobility changes. Driving becomes more difficult as you get older. That's why staying connected matters so much. Phone calls matter, neighbors matter, senior centers matter, church groups matter, community matters. Sometimes simply having somebody notice if your curtains never opened that morning can save your life. Let's be honest, most seniors don't want to ask for help. This generation, my generation, the baby boomer generation, survived wars, recessions, layoffs, raising families, repairing household appliances by smacking them twice with a sledgehammer. They value independence. But accepting help does not mean losing independence. In many cases, it's actually what preserves it. Growing older brings challenges. We all know that. There's really no way around it. But planning ahead makes an enormous difference. So talk with your family. Discuss finances. Make home improvements early if you can. Ask questions. Make plans before emergencies force decisions for you. Because the goal isn't perfection. Nope. The goal is dignity, safety, comfort, and staying connected to the people who matter the most. And remember, accepting help is not weakness. Sometimes wisdom means recognizing when support allows you to keep living life on your own terms. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I'm Jay here on the Daily Creak, wisdom with a side of ibuprofen. We'll see you next time. Romans 10:9.